Hey GBA fans, it's time for the weekly recap once again. I'm your host, Choice CJ, and I am joined by my co-host, Zilix. Say hello.
Sorry GBA fans, Zilix here.
And apologies in advance, this is obviously going up a little late. I've been doing some travel and haven't been able to record with Zilix, so totally on me. But with that out of the way, let's just hop right on into the matches. A lot of great matches this week. And our first one was no exception. This was Aster J, coach of the Montreal Habsols, versus Don Fanatic, aka Jack, coach of the Norwich Skitty. Aster brought Metagross, Salamence, Mega Blastoise, Piloswine, Infernape, and Cresselia. Jack brought Volcarona, Mega Lopunny, Crocodile, Latias, Clefable, and Dhelmise. Now, the Scarf Infernape leads off versus Crook, learns that it's Intimidate, and Jack makes a pretty nice play, expecting the U-turn, going for rocks immediately. Blastoise comes in and is going to click Hydro Pump versus that Crook, but the Dhelmise does switch in fairly easily on that. And Metagross is going to pivot in on the HP Ice that Dhelmise goes for. Dhelmise obviously expecting the Salamence. Metagross is able to get up rocks, but Dhelmise immediately spins away. It does take a Meteor Mash in the process, and then eventually gets Pursuit Trapped and killed by that Metagross. So rocks are not up on the field, but might come back up later. Crook comes in, which is going to lure in the Blastoise. Blastoise takes a crunch and is able to go for a rapid spin of its own. And then, not wanting to sack his Blastoise immediately, Aster switches into Mence, takes a crunch after landing an Intimidate on that Crocodile. And there's a little bit of switching going on, or actually on this turn, Aster meant to switch into Metagross as he was expecting a switch into Clefable, but he ran out of time. So Salamence stays in. But Metagross does come in on the following turn and set up the rocks finally. Now, the Metagross does provide a good opportunity for Volcarona to switch in, and this is where things get a little dicey. Aster goes hard into Infernape and takes a crit Fire Blast and immediately drops to about 40% total HP. So, one more hit like that and Infernape's gonna be gone, and the best way to revenge kill the Volk is gonna be gone too. Expecting the switch out, Aster goes for U-turn, but Jack once again stays in, making these really nice aggressive plays. It goes for a Quiver Dance on that U-turn. Aster is forced to sack his Blastoise. Nape comes in and clicks Flare Blitz, and it was a roll to kill that range of HP, but Jack smartly conserves the Volk and brings in the Crook, and doubles into the Latias after landing the Intimidate. Metagross is going to come in and double into Piloswine, scouting for Shadow Ball. And Piloswine and Lottie are going to trade blows a little bit. Lopunny actually switches in on a predicted Ice Shard and is going to lure in Aster's Cresselia. Cresselia is going to kill the Latias. Volk comes in and it could potentially do some work. It kills Piloswine with a Bug Buzz, but it does finally go down to Infernape's Rock Slide. So no Quiver Dance sweep happening this game. Clefable comes in, goes for a Calm Mind as Aster brings in Metagross. So Clef showing to potentially be the setup threat, but Metagross is actually going to land a crit Meteor Mash and take out the Clef, and it gets an attack boost along the way as well. Crook comes in, is not going to be able to kill Metagross with Crunch, and it actually dies to an Earthquake from Metagross, so Metagross getting 3 kills so far this match. Now this is where the most interesting part happens. Lopunny comes in, clicks High Jump Kick, kills the Metagross. Mence comes in for an Intimidate, and Aster switches back into Crest, takes an Ice Punch. Recognizing that his only play to win the game is to freeze the Cresselia, Jack goes for another Ice Punch and gets it. And 9 or 10 turns later, the Cresselia never thaws and it dies to that Lopunny. Aster smartly recognizes that he needs to get off and Intimidate with Mence, sack the Nape, and then go back into Mence to survive the Ice Punch from the Lopunny, which he does, and he's able to kill the Lopunny with Supersonic Sky Strike, resulting in a very close 1-0 game in the Habsol's favor. So this was shaping up to be a pretty easy 3-0 for Aster, but a little bit of good fortune on Jack's end made this very close.
Okay, so moving into our next match, we have Magic Activator versus Papacy, the Memphis Grizzlies versus New York Clinks. Memphis Grizzlies brought a roster of Togekiss, Jolteon, Mega Venusaur, Landorus T, Melodic, Mienshao, while the New York Clinks had Mega Pidgeot, Serena, Weezing, Hoopa-U, Excadrill, and Manaphy. The lead matchup was Weezing versus the Mienshao, which U-turns right away into the Melodic, which does get poisoned from the Wheezing, giving it the defense boost. Papa C then goes into his Serena and gets burned from the first Scald. This was pretty unfortunate for Papa C because he did mention that he may have been able to do a little bit more work with the Serena had it not been burned, but unfortunate for him, he did get burned right away. This gives Magic the opportunity to go into his Venusaur and Mega Evolve pretty much for free because the Serena being burned, and even without a burn, wouldn't be able to do much to Mega Venusaur anyways. Papa C then U-turns on the incoming Venusaur and goes into his Hoopa Unbound. Magic chooses to go into Togekiss, which does take a bit of damage, and then he tries to paralyze the Hoopa, but Papa C does go into Excadrill and sets up Rocks. A bit of pivoting happens on both sides, Papa C taking quite a bit of damage from Magic's Mons, up until Magic goes for a Supersonic Sky Strike with his Landorus versus the Wheezing, taking it out. The Manaphy comes out and is able to take out the incoming Melodic, I believe with 2 or 3 hits. Then the Jolteon comes out and predicts the Excadrill, taking it down to about half health, which then the Excadrill goes for an Iron Head on the incoming Landorus, doing quite a lot of damage even after an Intimidate. Magic then predicts again, getting offensive momentum with Jolteon being able to take out the Serena, and then the Excadrill comes back out and knocks out the incoming Togekiss. The Mienshao comes in, and this is going to be kind of the rest of the game. It's just Mienshao coming in, getting a kill, or something getting a kill on Magic's side. But it does come in and high jump kicks the Manaphy for a 2-hit KO. Papa C then brings in his Mega Pidgeot and gets the +4 speed, knocking out the Mega Venusaur with a Hurricane. The Jolteon comes in, survives the incoming Hurricane, gets confused, but is able to break through the confusion and take out the Pidgeot. The Jolteon is able to get one last hit against the Excadrill before going down to an Iron Head, and then the Excadrill dies to Mienshao's U-turn, allowing the Hoopa to come in to kill the Landorus, but then getting knocked out by Mienshao's U-turn once again.
Yeah, so this is now, I believe, 3 straight wins for Magic Activator. Like you were saying last week, I definitely think he's activated, and I think one of the difference makers for him obviously has been that Mienshao. It's 2 weeks in a row now that he's gotten 3 kills on that thing. So, you know, he's starting to figure out how his team works. He's bringing some good offense. Now, you know, instead of just bringing, you know, Melodic and 5 supporting cast members every week.
Yeah, I like that now he's using Melodic as more of like a defensive pivot to take maybe a couple hits and then immediately go into either a different defensive mon or an offensive mon to get offensive pressure right away.
And with that, we will go into our third match, which took place between its Regulator 60, coach of the Los Angeles Clefable, and Donaki, coach of the Rosenborg. Dan brought Darmanitan, Suicune, Aerodactyl, Garchomp, Mega Absol, and Magearna. Meanwhile, Greg brought Nihilego, Silvally, Fire, Zygarde 50, Whimsicott, Rotom Wash, and Mega Gallade. The lead matchup is Nihilego versus Darmanitan, and both of these mons are Choice Scarfed, and Dan is expecting that, and so he preserves his Darm, goes right into Suicune, takes the Power Gem with ease. Goes into Magearna, as Greg makes a nice switch of his own into the Rotom Wash. Rotom goes for a Volt Switch, but the Garchomp comes in blocking that, and the Garchomp reveals to be a really cool set. It's Toxic Whirlpool, and it was built specifically to take on this Rotom. So it's able to get the Rotom down to maybe 20-25% health, but the Rotom is able to land a bunch of Hydro Pumps and eventually take out that Garchomp. But that does allow the Absol to come in, click Pursuit, and kill that Rotom. Whimsicott comes in on the Absol. It goes for a Moonblast as Darm switches in, and Whimsicott starts to do what Whimsicott does best, and that's doing his annoying prankster shenanigans. It goes for a Sub, it gets broken by U-turn immediately, goes for Sub 3 more times as Magearna comes in, and Greg's shaping up to go for Endeavor. And Danaki does eventually sniff this out, and he goes hard Suicune on the final turn where Greg does endure, and the Rocky Helmet that the Suicune is wearing is actually going to get a kill on that Whimsicott. Gallade comes in. The Suicune is going to go for a rest, but Gallade's actually going to go for a bulk up. It bulks up on the second turn. Sleep Talk is going to pull a rest, so nothing that Dan can do that turn. On the second turn, Gallade goes for Close Combat, and Suikun's able to pull Scald with its Rest Talk and actually land a burn. So this might have actually prevented the game from ending right then and there. Gallade was in really good position. The Gallade is going to be able to follow up with the Drain Punch, kill the Suicune. Magearna comes in and clicks Shift Gear, but Magearna actually dies to the combination of Close Combat plus Shadow Sneak from a +2 burned Gallade, which is wild. Gallade is quite a monster. Absol's going to be able to come in, though, and kill that Gallade. And at this point, pretty much the Nihilego is going to win if it's able to come in at any point. But we do have a little bit of dancing around before then with Silvally Fire, inviting in the arrow. But then the Silvally parting shots into Zygarde. Zygarde is going to kill a Darmanitan that comes into 1,000 arrows. Arrow is going to kill Zygarde with Ice Fang after flinching it once. And then finally, Nihilego does come in and clean up the game, resulting in a 2-0 win for Greg. So Nihilego really being a threat, especially once that Magearna was gone.
So moving to our next matchup, we had the Toronto Staraptors, coached by Jolt, versus the Texas Rangers, coached by Randy. The Staraptors had a roster of Mega Kangaskhan, Mew, Nidoqueen, Rotom Heat, Cobalion, and Tornadus T, while the Texas Rangers brought Tapu Koko, Hydreigon, Hawlucha, Jellicent, Meloetta, and Cloyster. Lead matchup is the Kangaskhan versus the Koko. The Koko hard switches into the Jellicent, which it does. The Kangaskhan is able to get off a little bit of damage on the Jellicent, which then switches back into the Koko to take a Grass Knot, predicted nicely, and is able to get off some damage on the incoming Rotom Heat, U-turning to the Hydreigon, which takes a Toxic from the Rotom and then fires off a Head Smash on the incoming Cobalion, doing very little damage. The Cobalion is able to get up rocks, and on the following turn takes in Earth Power. Randy, able to predict the close combat, goes into Jellicent, but then takes a Volt Switch, sending the Cobalion into the Tornadus, able to Grass Knot the Jellicent, almost taking out, but the Jellicent is able to recover at least once before going down to the next hit, leaving the Tornadus quite low. So he does switch to get the Regenerator into the Rotom, which does go down to Tapu Koko's Thunderbolt. The Koko then switches out as the Nidoqueen comes in and Poison Jabs the incoming Hydreigon, able to put it in range of the poison damage, and it does go down. The Meloetta then comes in and sets up a substitute, getting big damage off on the Torn, who does come in to break the substitute with a U-turn, switching out to get Regenerator once again into the Cobalion, going down to the Psychic. The Tornadus comes in once again to get more Regenerator, which he is slowly whittling down this Meloetta, between Meloetta having to take the substitute damage as well as the U-turn damage. So eventually he does switch into Cloyster, which takes a Flamethrower from Mega Kangaskhan. Very interesting to see that happen. It does nearly take out the Cloyster, but it is able to survive that. And the Mew comes in to eat up a hit from the Cloyster. But the Cloyster then switches out into the Meloetta, and it heals up with a Berry and is almost able to get behind another sub, but the Tornadus comes in once again, able to fully mitigate the damage it took previously from all the Regenerator, and then it does knock out the Meloetta with a U-turn. Jolt then decides to sacrifice this Tornadus shortly after, though, to allow his Nidoqueen to come in and get a 2-hit KO on the Hawlucha. Jolt does swap his Nidoqueen for his Mew, taking damage from the Cloyster. Again, he is able to take this damage nicely because I believe he did prepare to be able to take on Cloyster, and he does knock it out with a Vacuum Wave on the following turn. The Koko comes out and takes out the Mew with a Gigavolt Havoc, but the Nidoqueen is able to come back in and take out the Koko with an Earth Power, sealing the match.
Yeah, so in this match, I do want to give a little bit of credit to Randy for bringing that Meloetta set. It was very dangerous versus Jolt's team. But otherwise, we're beginning to see that Randy's formula of Koko plus Electric Seed Hawlucha can be easily anticipated and prepared for. I think Jolt's team pretty much hard countered that strategy.
Yeah, the Nidoqueen was able to kind of stop a decent amount of the Rangers' offense this week. I believe it was the ceiling factor for the Hydreigon, Koko, and the Hawlucha. So, yeah, one Mon being able to take out a lot of your offense is definitely not the greatest thing. Maybe he wasn't predicting it, or maybe it was just a rough matchup for the rest of his team.
Finally, we do have the Durham Dreadagons, coached by 6-foot Hacks, aka Leo, going up against the Newcastle Umbreon, coached by Aberforth. Abe did bring his Rotom, his Miltank, Primarina, Jirachi, Crobat, and Mega Beedrill. Meanwhile, Leo brought Bronzong, Kyurem Black, Mega Aerodactyl, Tapu Fini, Greninja, and Reuniclus. Scarf Rotom is going to lead off versus Bronzong. Going to immediately Volt Switch into Beedrill, expecting the Stealth Rocks, and the Beedrill is going to U-turn back into the Rotom, expecting a Gyro Ball, but it actually takes a Psychic. It does like 40 or 45% damage, surprisingly strong, and the Shadow Ball is going to kill that Bronzong. The Rotom is looking very threatening versus Leo's team, but fortunately for him, he does have Mega Aerodactyl with Pursuit, and he's going to be able to kill that Rotom quite easily. Jirachi comes in and is going to make an aggressive play, going for Calm Mind, expecting the arrow to switch out, but Leo actually stays in and clicks Pursuit just to try and get some damage off on the Rachi and to see what sort of set it is. It's going to click Pursuit again, get it to about 40% HP before the Flash Cannon kills the arrow, but the Expert Belt Greninja is going to be able to revenge with the Dark Pulse. Mega Bee comes in, and thinking that he might just let his Greninja go down, he goes for a Fell Stinger. But Leo is actually going to bring in his Tapu Fini. Fini is packing the Kepia Berry, which is why he wasn't too afraid of going hard into that. It does get the berry popped on the next turn, as Mega Beedrill does go for that Poison Jab. It's going to get hit up with a Surf, and it's actually going to crit, which is unfortunate because it puts the Beedrill below 25%, meaning it can no longer switch in on rocks. Poison Jab does kill on the following hit. Kyurem Black comes in, and because he can't bring his Beedrill in anymore, he just goes for another Poison Jab, as Kyurem kills it with Fusion Bolt. Now, the next few turns are quite interesting. Miltank comes in, and expecting some sort of Z-move set, the Miltank actually doubles into Primarina because he was expecting the Kyurem Black to switch out, not being able to do anything versus the Miltank. But not realizing that it's actually a banded Kyurem, the Kyurem is able to kill that Primarina with Fusion Bolt. And on the next turn, we have a repeat. Miltank comes in again, scouts for what the Kyurem's going to do, brings in the Crobat, and the Crobat also dies to Fusion Bolt. So, I'm sure in the post-game it seemed odd to watch, but I can understand where Abe's coming from with making those plays. Miltank is the last mon remaining on Abe's side. It milk drinks a few times until eventually Reuniclus gets switched in. Miltank eventually gets up to full health that way, and it actually goes for Curse. So, for all of those quote-unquote misplays, there's still a chance for victory until Miltank clicks Return and reveals not to have max happiness. So with that discovered, the Reuniclus is just going to go for a Psychic until the Miltank dies, and that is going to result in a 3-0 victory for the Durham Dreadagons. Could have been a really interesting finish. It's unfortunate that it sort of came down to a genning error, but in any case, Durham Dreadagons are on a 5-game winning streak going into their showdown with the Montreal Habsols next week.
I think that's the second time this season where we've had a Mon with the incorrect amount of happiness, resulting in, not being able to do that big damage with Return, which does suck. I know that's one of the harder things to check before your battle, because it's not like straight up written on your screen like, oh, your speed's 350. It doesn't just have your happiness there. I'm pretty sure in Sun and Moon you have to go talk to someone. So, it does kind of suck, but it is what it is. Oh well.
Yeah, I'm sure Abe would do it over if he could.
Right.
With that, we are going to move into our standings, and Zilix, why don't you take it off?
So some interesting matches. We have seen a little bit of shifting here. Quite a lot of teams are still in range of potentially getting into those top 4 positions. So obviously on top we have the Montreal Habsols 6-0 with a +17 differentials. Not too far behind, we do have the Durham Dreadagons 5-1 with a +12 differential. And then we have in third place the Toronto Star Raptors 4-2 with a +8. And then for our 3-3 teams, we have the Texas Rangers, LA Cofable, Newcastle Umbreon, and Memphis Grizzlies with a -3, -1, -2, and -4 respectively. I believe that's 7 differential in between the top and bottom, so 1 loss, 1 win can really change up what we're looking at here. That's not very far apart at all. I think at the beginning of the season, a lot of people would have said that some of these teams may have been a bit more behind or ahead than others, but obviously as the season has progressed, it has shifted up quite a bit. Then with 2 and 4, we have the Rosenborg with a +1 differential, and then we have the Norwich Skitty are 1 and 5 with a -15, and the New York Clinks are 0 and 6 with a -19. So moving on, next we have our league leaders. Leading the league leaders, we have, that's a tongue twister, Tapu Koko at the top, which is 14 and 3. Very impressive KD ratio with a +11 kill death ratio there. In number 2, we have Cresselia, which is 9 and 2, and then rounding off our top 3, we have the Nihilego, which is 8 and 4. Also 8 and 4, we have the Mega Absol, then the Mienshao, which is 7 and 2, the Superior, which is 6 and 1, Suicune 6 and 2, Greninja also 6 and 2, and Fernape also 6 and 2, and then Metagross, which is 6 and 3 at the bottom at number 10.
That is going to wrap it up for us for week 6 of the GBA D League. There are 3 weeks remaining, and we do sincerely hope that you guys stay tuned to figure out how the playoff picture shapes up. Make sure you sub to the GBA channel to stay up to date on all of the analyst videos. Make sure you check out all of our fantastic coaches. Links are down in the description. Zilix, do you have anything to say before we sign off?
Not much else. Thanks for watching.
Yep, thank you guys very much, and until the next time, we'll see you guys later.